everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
DanMachi, is it wrong for a mafia boss to go to the dungeon? Chapter 62 to 68, Sharing Communis. Having finished his conversation with Arenas, Suna returned to the church. I am home. Welcome home. What happened? Suna was watching the church. Then, Hestia and Bel returned from the banquet of the gods. However, the moment Hestia walked through the door, she looked visibly enraged. Suna hesitantly asked what had happened. You were right, Tsunayoshi. The brawl at the pub yesterday wasn't an accident. It was a trap set up by Apollo. It was all a scheme to get his hands on Bel. What do you mean? They falsely claimed that their familia members had been critically injured, and demanded Bel as compensation for the damages. Naturally, I refused, but that bastard Apollo immediately challenged us to a war game. A war game? That's a duel between familias where you bet a reward, right? I refused that offer too, obviously. But Apollo won't give up this easily. I know him from our days in heaven, and he's incredibly persistent. I'm certain he'll try something else to get his hands on Bel. Why is he going that far for Bel? It's likely because Bel achieved the great feat of reaching level 2 in just a single month. That's right. Suna remembered what Finn had told him, that there were familias out there who would use any means necessary to acquire exceptionally talented adventurers. That said, I doubt he'll make a move immediately. But we can't just sit around and do nothing. I know it's asking a lot, Tsunayoshi, but could you stick close to Bel from now on? Leave it to me. I'm sorry, Suna. Suna readily agreed to Hestia's request. Feeling terrible that Suna's freedom was being restricted because of him, Bel was overwhelmed with guilt. But tomorrow. That's right. You were called over by a braver, weren't you? What are you talking about? Because of the brawl the previous day, Bel was the only one entirely out of the loop regarding Suna and Hestia's conversation. Finn invited me over. He wants to give me the reward from the expedition and talk about something important. Oh, I see. In that case, I'll stay with Bel tomorrow while you're gone, Tsunayoshi. Just meet up with us as soon as your business is finished. Understood. The next morning. We've been waiting for you. Suna arrived at the Loki Familia's home base to receive his expedition reward and discuss the masked figure. He was currently seated in the captain's office. Sitting across from him was Finn, with Gareth and Riveria flanking him on either side. Sorry for the delayed invitation. We had a lot going on after the expedition ended. Handing over the reward would have been quick, but we couldn't find the time to sit down and talk properly until now. Finn explained the circumstances behind the week-long delay and offered his apologies. Moving on to the main topic regarding the masked figure. That masked figure is a member of the evils. I thought so. Did you already know? But Finn had told me about the evils before, so I thought it might be a possibility. If he admitted that he had heard the name from Ryo, it would expose her involvement, so Tsuna smoothly lied, claiming he had deduced it himself. We examined the cloak and mask you provided, but they were not manufactured anywhere in Rio. They were likely custom-made by the evils themselves. As a result, we couldn't find any clues leading to their identity. We looked into the knives as well, but they were just standard, commercially available weapons. Honestly, anyone could get their hands on them. They might have even stolen them. As expected, pinpointing their identity from the gear alone is difficult. On the day he fought the masked figure, Suna had handed over the discarded mask, cloak, and knives to the Loki Familia so they could investigate. However, as Riveria and Gareth explained, the items yielded no actionable intelligence. But are you sure it's really the evils? I thought they were completely wiped out by an adventurer named Gale. To further cement the illusion that he knew nothing about Ryu, Suna added another layer of insurance to his act. There were remnants. And it is highly likely they are plotting to turn Rio into a living hellscape once more. We are hunting them down to stop their plans. But right now, we have almost zero information on them. That is why we want any information you might have gathered while fighting them. I don't mind sharing, but I don't really know much myself. Even the smallest detail helps. Just tell us honestly what you felt when you fought them. Well, they had a magic sword that shot fire, and they were wearing metal gauntlets. I broke one of the gauntlets and I remember seeing pale white skin underneath. A magic sword and white skin. Magic swords were expensive, but anyone with enough money could buy one, or simply steal one. And white skin applied to countless races. Those details alone weren't enough to narrow down the suspect pool. Other than that, I felt nothing but an eerie creepiness, and this overwhelming sadness, hatred, and despair from them. From the masked figure. It was like every negative emotion imaginable had been condensed into one person. As he spoke, the image of the Vindice flashed through Tsuna's mind. Just standing near the Vindice induced a creepy, spine-chilling sensation, and when fighting them, he had felt their intense, burning hatred. While it wasn't exactly the same, Tsuna had sent a very similar dark aura from the masked figure. I didn't sense anything other than a general creepiness. He excels at seeing into people's hearts. It wouldn't be strange for him to feel something we couldn't. Hatred, however. That emotion could be a crucial clue in uncovering their identity. Having fought Tsuna directly, Finn knew firsthand that Tsuna wasn't lying or exaggerating his intuition. The only other thing I can think of is that they vanished without a trace. You mentioned that before. But why do you think they vanished instead of escaped? I kicked them into the air and fired my flames at them. When the smoke cleared, only their mask and cloak were left. If they had a way to move midair, I thought they would have used it from the start to dodge. In that case, perhaps it wasn't an escape back then either. It's possible. What are you talking about? Unable to follow Riveria and Finn's sudden shift in conversation, Tsuna tilted his head in confusion. Truth be told, that figure appeared while we were on our way down to the 59th floor. Learning from Gareth that the masked figure had been present during the expedition, Tsuna was completely bewildered, having no memory of seeing them. It's no surprise you didn't see them. They appeared when we were on the 58th floor. Right when we got separated from Finn's group. Back then. They appeared before us, but the moment Riveria fired her magic, they vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving only their mask and cloak behind. Then that means. Hearing the circumstances of their encounter, Tsuna realized it mirrored his own fight exactly. I wonder if they have some kind of spatial teleportation ability. Spatial teleportation. Like, right after the attack hit, and they were covered in smoke, they instantly teleported their physical body to a different location. Or maybe they can create illusions with actual physical mass. That would certainly explain the inconsistencies, but how do you even come up with ideas like that? You truly never fail to exceed our expectations. Haha, you think so? The theories were so wildly outside the realm of common sense that Riveria, Gareth, and Finn were slightly taken aback. Unable to admit he actually knew people capable of spatial teleportation and real illusions, Tsuna just laughed nervously to brush it off. This was very helpful. We will continue our investigation based on your testimony. Is there anything else I can do to help? Honestly, having your cooperation would be incredibly reassuring. But we can't just rely on you. Furthermore, no matter how strong you are, it wouldn't be right to drag someone who hates fighting into this conflict repeatedly. Rather than worrying about us, you should worry about yourself and those close to you. You fought a member of the evils and repelled them. They already have their eyes on you. It wouldn't be strange if they targeted you at any time, anywhere. And if they do, Goddess Hestia and Bel Cranel could easily get caught in the crossfire. So please protect them. Understood. I'm truly sorry. By inviting you on that expedition, I've dragged both you and your loved ones into a dangerous conspiracy. I decided to go on the expedition myself. It's not your fault, Finn. Despite being the catalyst that dragged Suna and his friends into a deadly conspiracy, Suna didn't blame him in the slightest. Finn felt a profound sense of gratitude. Then, it happened. It's noisy out there. What's the commotion? A loud explosion echoed from outside. Curious, Gareth and Riveria walked over to the window to investigate. Looks like a turf war between some familias. A turf war? In the middle of the city. It's not uncommon in Rio. We've clashed with the Freya familia many times ourselves. Why, you're kidding. Suna was utterly shocked that a violent gang war was breaking out in a city filled with civilians, and even more shocked that Gareth and Riveria were completely unfazed by it. Captain. It's terrible. Keep your voices down, Tiona. The office door was violently thrown open as a panicked Tiona and Tiona burst into the room. Riveria immediately scolded them for shouting. Argonaut is being attacked by the Apollo familia. What are you doing here? Is that true? It's true. We have to hurry, it's bad. The Apollo familia has a history of accepting the guild's penalties just to forcefully steal members from other familias. Sorry, Finn. I'll come back for the reward later. Hearing Tione's warning, Suna bolted out of the room and sprinted out to save Belle. Meanwhile, at Aurena's altar. Impossible. What is wrong, Aurenas? Aurenas, who was seated on his altar as usual, suddenly widened his eyes in sheer shock. Because the god rarely showed any emotion whatsoever, Fels instantly realized something catastrophic had happened. An intruder. An intruder. In this underground altar. Without a doubt. In the thousands of years since Aurario's founding, while they had received visitors in the underground altar, not once had anyone ever infiltrated it. Both Aurenas and Fels were struck with disbelief. Footsteps began echoing through the cavern, growing steadily closer. Moving to protect Aurenas, Fels stepped forward, dropping into a combat stance. Finally, the intruder stepped out of the shadows. Are you Aurenas? Author's notes: I apologize for including elements that might confuse readers who haven't read the original works. If you want to know more, please read the original novels, or watch the Goddess of Fertility arc, that is getting an anime adaptation this year, 2024. Also regarding Suna can't level up. It wouldn't be very interesting if I let Suna rank up, so I'm not going to. I'm sorry to those who were looking forward to it. Personally, I really want to include Althea. Also, I'd love to try writing a story where she falls in love with Giotto. I kind of want to write it Suna versus Althea fight, too. I also plan to have some reborn characters make an appearance in DanMachi. Anyway, I wonder which is worse. Sears cooking or Bianchi's poison cooking? In my opinion, Sears cooking is awful too, but still better than Bianchi's poisonous food. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 63, Chapter 63, Home Tutor Reborn, 1835 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 63, Home Tutor Reborn. Hearing that Belle was under attack by the Apollo familia, Suna sprinted out of the Loki familia's home base. Desperate to reach Belle as quickly as possible, Suna dashed through the city streets. The noise stopped. The explosions he had heard earlier suddenly ceased. Feeling a deep sense of unease, Suna maintained his pace, frantically searching for Belle to confirm his safety. Found them. After 10 minutes of running, Suna finally spotted Belle. Standing beside him with grave expressions were Hestia and Wealth. Tsunayoshi. Is it true the Apollo familia attacked you? We're fine. Though we just postponed the problem. More importantly, another issue has popped up. What do you mean? I'll explain everything once we move to a safer location. Suna and the others relocated to the home base of the Mayak Familia, a faction on friendly terms with the Hestia Familia. Their own home, the abandoned church, had been completely destroyed by the Apollo Familia during the attack, leaving them homeless. Meanwhile, stating he had something important to take care of, Welf temporarily parted ways with the group and returned to his own faction, the Hephaestus Familia. It's terrible timing, but allow me to introduce you, Tsunayoshi. This is my friend, the god Mayak. I am Mayak. A pleasure to meet you. Hestia introduced the handsome, blue-haired god standing before her. This was Mayak, the patron deity of the Mayak Familia. As the god of medicine, he was exactly as gentle and kind as he looked, deeply beloved by the people. However, his profound compassion was also his biggest flaw. He had a terrible habit of giving away their stock of healing potions for free to those in need. And this is his captain, Naza. Nice to meet you. Next, she introduced a cool, short-haired Chianthrope woman. Her name was Naza Arisois. She was the captain of the Mayak Familia, and currently its sole member. Naza was originally a level 2 adventurer known as the Gumail Hound, but after a monster in the dungeon ripped off her arm, the trauma rendered her completely unable to enter the dungeon. Desperate to help her, Mayak purchased a top-of-the-line prosthetic arm for her. However, the prosthetic was so absurdly expensive that the Familia was plunged into massive debt. Unable to bear the financial burden, every other member abandoned the Familia, reducing the once mid-tier faction to near poverty. Possessing skills as a pharmacist, she now worked tirelessly making potions, blaming herself for her Familia's downfall, and striving desperately to pay off the crushing debt. However, because Mayak kept giving away their products for free, the debt never seemed to shrink. Furthermore, Naza was deeply in love with Mayak. However, Mayak was incredibly dense and completely oblivious to her feelings, and he had a terrible habit of unintentionally charming other women, causing Naza endless headaches. I'm Sawada Tsunayoshi. Please, just call me Tsuna. It's a cramped familia, but please make yourself at home. Thank you. Tsuna politely thanked Mayak, grateful that the god had welcomed him so warmly despite never having met him before. So, what exactly happened? Bell recounted everything that had occurred after Tsuna left that morning. After Tsuna departed, the Apollo Familia launched a massive, coordinated assault, willingly accepting the guild's penalties just to forcefully kidnap Bell. Lily, Welf and members of both the Mayak and Takamikazuchi Familias had fought desperately to protect him, but they were vastly overwhelmed by the Apollo Familia's numbers and tactics. Fearing that Bell would be taken if the battle continued, Hestia grabbed Bell, marched straight to the Apollo Familia's estate, and formally challenged Apollo to a war game to force them to back off. But even if we participate in a war game, winning will be incredibly difficult. But the fact that Apollo accepted the challenge is the only silver lining. The specific rules will be decided at a Donatus assembly by the gods. Depending on the rules, we might have a tiny sliver of a chance. It's mostly wishful thinking, though. I'll participate too. In the war game. You can't, Tsunayoshi. The war game is broadcast to all of Orario. The goddess is right. If you do that. Hearing the desperate situation, Tsuna immediately resolved to join the war game. However, if Tsuna fought, his existence and power would be exposed to the entire city. Hestia and Bell frantically tried to stop him. I want to win. I absolutely refuse to lose to people who try to steal someone's friends by force. I definitely won't lose to the Apollo Familia. Tsuna's resolve was unshakable. Because the normally timid Tsuna was asserting himself with such fierce determination, Bell and Hestia were stunned into silence. Well said, Tsuna. A boss who abandons his subordinates has no place in the Vangala. Tsunayoshi. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoed through the room. A split second later, Tsuna was violently dropkicked across the room by an unseen force. Hestia and Bell recoiled in shock. It's been a while, Dame Tsuna. Are reborn. Standing before them was Reborn, who was supposed to be back in their original world. Tsuna stared at the infant, completely paralyzed by shock. AA baby is talking. And he's standing perfectly upright. How bizarre. What race is he? Seeing an infant standing perfectly on two legs and speaking with the cadence of an adult, Belle, Hestia, Mayak, and Naza were absolutely dumbfounded. Wait a second. Isn't Reborn the name of someone from Tsunayoshi's world? Don't tell me this baby is Tsuna's comrade. Shocked by the talking infant, they had momentarily forgotten, but Hestia and Belle suddenly recalled that Tsuna had mumbled the name Reborn when they first met him. They instantly realized that Reborn was from Tsuna's world. What are you doing here? Isn't it obvious? I came to Orario to be your home tutor, obviously. Does that mean? Hearing Reborn's words, Tsuna, Hestia, and Belle realized the truth. Reborn had intentionally traveled to this world using some unknown method. Are you Belle and Hestia? How do you know our names? I heard Tsuna was staying with you. Plus, the whole city is currently gossiping about the Hestia and Apollo Familius fighting a war game over Belle. You already found out about that. Do you have any chance of winning? It depends entirely on the rules. But to be perfectly honest, our chances are abysmally low. Even if it was just a one-on-one duel between Belle and their captain, Belle fought him earlier today and was completely outclassed. Then how about I train Belle? Why you will? Oh, this is bad. Never in a million years did Belle and Hestia expect Reborn to offer such a thing. They were thrilled, but Tsuna's face instantly drained of all color. I heard you took care of Tsuna. Consider this my thanks. So, what'll it be? Are you in? You absolutely shouldn't do it. You'll definitely regret it. I wasn't asking you. Despite offering Belle the choice, Reborn mercilessly kicked Tsuna in the face for interrupting. I'm the one who made Tsuna as strong as he is. If you undergo my training, I guarantee you'll become stronger than you are now. Assuming you have the resolve, that is. My resolve. If you have Tsuna attack the Apollo Familia right now, he can definitely crush them. If he did that, your safety would be guaranteed. If you're fine with that, I won't say another word. However, I have absolutely no intention of training a coward. But if you're willing to throw away guaranteed safety because you still want to win with your own hands, I'll train you. What's your answer? Reborn deliberately offered a tempting out, testing Belle's resolve with a carrot and a stick. Belle fell silent, staring down at the floor as he thought. I'll do it. Good answer. Well said, Belle. This is going to be a disaster. Hearing Belle's response, Reborn flashed an incredibly sinister, excited smirk. Seeing that smile, Tsuna felt a profound sense of impending doom. All right then, we're leaving for your training immediately. Immediately. Hurry up and get ready. You understood. So that's the deal. I'm taking this guy out of Orario. I don't mind, but... Are you planning on leaving the city? Since Belle had made the decision himself, Hestia didn't intervene, and accepted Reborn's request. We could train here, but exposing him to a variety of harsh environments is the fastest way to force growth. Also, do you have a detailed map of the areas outside Orario? We can provide that for you. Yes, Lord Mayak. Hearing Reborn needed a map, Mayak instructed Naza to fetch one. Naza nodded and headed into the back of the clinic. Also, Belle. Take off your armor. It's pointless to have it. Just bring your weapons. Why yes, sir. Completely baffled by Reborn's logic, Belle reluctantly unequipped his armor. Because they were originally planning to go to the dungeon, he had been fully geared up. Here is the map. Naza returned and handed the map to Reborn. Reborn quickly scanned it. I've got the gist of it. You can read Koine at your age. I memorized it just now. Mayak was impressed that such a young child could read the common language, but Reborn's casual response left him blinking in confusion. Do you know when the war game will be held? The gods will decide that at the assembly shortly. I'll do everything in my power to buy you as much time as possible to train. How much time can you buy? 1 week. That's more than enough. What is this? Reborn casually tossed something to Tsuna. Tsuna caught it and stared at the object in absolute disbelief. It was a smartphone. Once the war game schedule is finalized, use that to contact me. I've modified it so it works in this world. Alright. Let's go, Belle. We don't have a second to waste. Why yes, sir. Leave things here to us, Belle. Just focus entirely on your training. With that, Belle and Reborn left the Mayak Familia and headed out of Rio. I'm sorry, Hestia. I'm apologizing in advance. Apologizing? About Belle. He might actually die before the war game even starts. Belle might die. What are you talking about? Reborn's training is completely insane. I've almost died during it more times than I can count. He's gentle with girls, but when it comes to guys, he has absolutely zero mercy. Seeing the sheer, traumatized terror in Tsuna's eyes, Hestia realized he wasn't joking. She was struck completely speechless. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 64, Chapter 64, Dependent of the God of Wine, Lilaruka Arde. 1037 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 64, Dependent of the God of Wine, Lilaruka Arde. Belle had left the city with Reborn to begin his training. I'm incredibly worried about Belle, but all we can do now is trust him. Besides, we still have another massive problem to deal with. Another problem? Supporter Kuin was taken. The news that they had been attacked was shocking enough, but hearing that Lily had been kidnapped sent Tsuna's anxiety through the roof. You mean she was kidnapped? While the Apollo Familia was attacking us. Wait, so the Apollo Familia kidnapped her? It was the Familia she belongs to. If it's her own Familia, isn't she fine? No, it's the absolute worst-case scenario. I don't know why they took her, but I can say one thing: if this continues, Supporter Kuin won't be able to lead a normal life. We have to save her as quickly as possible. What do you mean? What kind of familia is she in? Lily had always been extremely secretive about her past, so Tsuna had purposefully avoided prying. But given the current crisis, Tsuna decided to ask Hestia for the truth. Alright, I'll tell you. About Supporter Kuin's familia. Given the situation, I doubt she'll be angry if I tell you. Judging that Tsuna deserved to know, and that Lily wouldn't hold it against him, Hestia decided to reveal her past. It seems we are in the way. Let's go, Naza. Yes, Lord Mayak. Sensing that this was a private conversation, Mayak excused himself and led Naza into the back room. Hestia thanked them for their consideration. So, about Supporter Kuin. She belongs to the Soma Familia. They are a faction led by Soma, the god of wine. But it's not just any wine. It is wine crafted by Soma himself. It's called divine wine. And that wine is the exact reason Supporter Kuin's life has been so tragic. Because of wine. Soma's wine is perfection. It's no exaggeration to say there is no better alcohol in this world. Because of that, every member of his familia who drinks it becomes completely addicted to it. The captivated members are driven by the desire to drink the divine wine again, and they desperately scrape together money to fund it. Why is that a problem? Tsuna had listened closely, but he still didn't understand why an addiction to wine would lead to a tragic life. The members enchanted by the divine wine try to get money even by dragging others down. Their minds are entirely consumed by the wine, so no one cares about Supporter Kuin in the slightest. Her parents passed away a long time ago, so she is completely isolated within her own familia. That's terrible. But if that's the case, why didn't she just leave? That's impossible. The patron god Soma won't listen. Actually, it's highly likely he doesn't even know the current state of his own familia. He doesn't know. Even though his familia is falling apart. Soma has absolutely zero interest in anything other than brewing wine. He couldn't care less what happens to his own familia. That's awful. Generally, the rules for leaving a familia depend entirely on the patron god. Some gods allow it easily, while others don't. Knowing that Soma wouldn't even listen to her properly, supporter Kun decided to leave the familia in exchange for money. But since she lacked talent as an adventurer, her only option was to earn money working as a supporter. On top of that, because she was weak, other adventurers constantly abused and exploited her. Her own familia wouldn't help her, and they didn't even care if she lived or died. Driven to absolute despair by everything, she resorted to stealing to save enough money to leave. Suna was utterly stunned. He never would have imagined that Lily had resorted to thievery. So that's why. Suna finally understood why Lily had been so desperate to hide her true identity. It also explained why she used transformation magic to disguise herself. She would skillfully ingratiate herself with adventurers, endure their abuse, and then betray them, stealing their money. Shortly before you arrived in Ora Rio, she approached Belle and became his supporter. Obviously, with the intention of stealing his money. So Belle was a victim too. When they went into the dungeon, she waited for an opening, stole his knife and ran. But during her escape, an adventurer she had previously robbed caught up to her and exacted his revenge. Beaten half to death, she was almost eaten by a monster, but Belle saved her. Struck by the guilt of being saved by the very boy she had betrayed, she completely washed her hands of stealing. I had no idea. After that, she faked her own death and continued working quietly as a supporter. But during the chaos of the attack earlier, she was dragged back to her familia. But why would they go out of their way to do that? I thought her familia didn't care about her. Not every single member is mindlessly drowning in wine. No matter how potent the divine wine is, just like normal alcohol, the intoxication fades and you build a tolerance. I've heard that the level 2 adventurers in the familia don't get as drunk and manage to keep their wits about them. However, their sense of camaraderie is still non-existent. Yet they still took her. No matter how you look at it, this won't end well for her. That's why we have to save her, no matter what it takes. So you're going to storm the Soma familia. It's our only option. Conflicts between familias are strictly prohibited by the guild, but we don't have the luxury of caring about that right now. I'm going to save Lily. Tsunayoshi understood. Sensing the same unshakable resolve he had shown when declaring he would fight in the war game, Hestia said nothing and respected his decision. Just wait for me, Lily. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 65, Prisoner 1398 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 65, Prisoner 3 days after the Apollo Familia's attack. In a wine cellar located in the southeastern part of the city, a storage facility for the alcohol brewed by Soma Lily was currently locked inside an underground prison cell. How are you feeling, Arde? The worst. A human man approached the cell where she was being held. Lily immediately spat out her response, her voice dripping with venom. The man's name was Xanis Lustra. He was the captain of the Soma Familia. He had seized the position by ruthlessly crushing the other candidates. Taking advantage of Soma's complete apathy toward running the Familia, Xanis had established a corrupt reward system where only the top earners who brought in the most tribute were allowed to drink the divine wine. Capitalizing on Soma's singular obsession with brewing, Xanis had completely monopolized the Familia. He was one of the primary reasons Lily's life had been a living hell. Did you really not harm Lord Bell and the others? During the Apollo Familia's attack 3 days prior, Xanas had cooperated with Apollo in exchange for a hefty reward. Amidst the chaos of the conflict, Xanas had approached Lily. He manipulated her by threatening to severely punish Bell and the others for using her unless she returned to the Familia. Realizing that Bell, Wealth, and the members of the Takamikazuchi and Mike Familias had been dragged into a bloody conflict because of her, Lily had surrendered and agreed to return with Xanas. Of course. I swear it on the patron god Soma's name. Xanas invoked their patron god's name, answering her question with hollow, meaningless words. Why do you suddenly care about me now? Because I have finally recognized your value. I have no such value. Oh, you do. You are quite useful. I noticed you had been secretly hoarding wealth. I am well aware of your skills as a thief, and I rate them highly. Furthermore, you possess a rather rare magic, do you not? Lily's eyes widened in sheer shock. Aside from Bell and his friends, no one was supposed to know about her magic. I coerced the information out of Lord Soma. Reading the horror on her face, Xanas cheerfully provided the answer. Despite his utter lack of interest in others, Soma was the one who had granted Lily her fauna. And because Soma, entirely lacking any concept of information security, had easily spilled her secrets. Just to confirm, Arde. You can transform into monsters, correct? What does it matter if I can? Lily gave a dismissive, non-committal reply. However, hearing her response, a wicked, greedy smile twisted Xanas's face. There is something I wish for your cooperation with. Think of it as a small business venture. Which is? Lure out monsters, capture them, and sell them on the black market. Simple, isn't it? There's no way monsters possess any commercial value. I wonder about that. While magic stones and drop items were incredibly valuable, living monsters themselves were worthless. Lily mentally dismissed his plan as idiotic, but Xanas's cryptic response unsettled her. Is that why you brought me back? Is that why you dragged the Soma Familia, dragged Lord Bell, and the others into this mess? I resent the accusation. I simply want the divine wine Lord Soma brews. I want gold, I want women, I want to eat the finest delicacies. I want to gorge myself on every conceivable pleasure this world has to offer. Xanas's calm facade shattered. Revealing his true, ugly nature, he delivered a vicious kick to the iron bars of the cell, bending the thick metal. I love this Familia. No matter how deep I sink my hands into evil, our Lord never punishes us. As long as I don't interfere with that god's pathetic hobby, I can do whatever the hell I want. It is the perfect environment. Your true colors are showing. Called out by Lily, Xanas forcefully reined in his temper and pulled his foot back from the bars. Then, it happened. The alarm. An enemy attack. Suddenly, a loud bell began to chime frantically. The harsh clatter of metal clashing against metal echoed from above, signaling to Xanas that they were under attack. Chandra. Are you there? Report the situation at once. Xanas yelled up toward the dwarf standing at the top of the stairs leading to the surface. Go look for yourself. Are your legs just for show? Enough of your lip. What happened? Looks like some rats snuck in. They're a ragtag group and apparently, there's a young goddess with them. The dwarf with short hair and a thick beard, Chandra, lazily reported the situation. Where are the intruders now? Still fighting in the plaza near the warehouses. Then we shall exterminate them. I will take command. You broke our promise. You swore you wouldn't lay a finger on Lady Hestia and the others. They are the ones who attacked us. I must brush away the sparks that fall upon my own coat. Realizing that Hestia and the others had come to rescue her, Lily frantically tried to stop Xanas from heading to the battlefield to lead the counterattack. But Xanas ignored her completely. Then I will persuade them. I will convince them to retreat. So please. I cannot send a precious comrade into danger. Besides, you are their target, are you not? If you break our promise, I will never cooperate with you. Well, I suppose it cannot be helped. I will allow you exactly 1 drop of the divine wine I've been skimming. Lily had tried desperately to hold him back, but the moment Xanis offered her a single drop of the divine wine, the words died in her throat. Craving the wine, you will become my obedient servant. You will happily grant my every wish. Lily had tasted the divine wine once before. She had become instantly addicted, resorting to working as a supporter just to earn enough money to buy more. However, after enduring endless abuse from adventurers, the intoxication faded, and she gave up on the wine. She escaped the familia and found peace working at a flower shop run by an elderly couple. But that fragile peace was shattered by familia members maddened by their addiction. They raided the shop, stole her savings, and destroyed the elderly couple's livelihood. The couple, who had treated her with such kindness, threw her out, looking at her as if she were filth. Traumatized and disgusted by adventurers, she fell into absolute despair and turned to thievery to survive. Why am I so weak? Everyone is fighting so hard for me right now. Hestia and the others were risking their lives to save her. Yet, the mere promise of a single drop of divine wine had paralyzed her, the dark craving rearing its ugly head in her mind. Lily gripped the iron bars so tightly her palms bled, cursing her own pathetic weakness. Then, it happened. What was that? A deafening roar erupted from outside, immediately followed by a massive tremor that shook the entire warehouse, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. The sounds of clashing metal that had been echoing just moments before completely vanished. Chandra. Keep an eye on Arde. Realizing this was no ordinary attack, Xanis ordered Chandra to guard Lily, and sprinted up the stairs toward the battlefield. What on earth is happening up there? Xanis burst into the god's chamber on the top floor of the management tower. Despite the massive earthquake, Soma was still sitting at his desk, meticulously working on his brew. Xanis ignored him and stepped out onto the balcony to assess the battlefield. Looking down at the courtyard, Xanis was struck entirely speechless. A massive crater had been carved into the center of the plaza, and every single combatant, both friend and foe alike, was collapsed on the ground, paralyzed by shock. You're the one who kidnapped Lily, right? Standing at the epicenter of the crater, bathed in the fiery glow of his hyper-dying will mode, Suna looked up at Xanis on the balcony and delivered his chilling ultimatum. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 66, Chapter 66, Fury. 1731 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 66, Fury. Time rewound slightly. Suna and the others had arrived near the winery where Lily was being held captive. The rescue squad consisted of Tsuna, Hestia, Naza, Mayak, Wealth, and the members of the Takamikazuchi familia who had previously subjected Belle's party to the pass parade. Is everyone ready? Hestia asked, making her final checks. No problems here, Tsuna replied, his voice calm and resonant as he entered hyper-dying will mode. Your head is on fire. A large human man from the Takamikazuchi familia yelled, falling into a panic. This man was Kashima Oka. Bearing the alias Mizura Takeo, he was a level 2 adventurer, and the captain of the Takamikazuchi familia. He was deeply compassionate toward his comrades, treating his familia members like blood relatives. What should we do? Hurry, get some water. A petite girl with short black hair, and a dignified girl with a black ponytail panicked right alongside Uka. The petite girl was Hitachi Chigusa, a level 1 member of the Takamikazuchi familia. Though timid and introverted, she possessed a strong core. Secretly, she harbored feelings for Uka. The girl with the ponytail was Yamato Mikoto, a level 2 adventurer with the alias Zetsui. She was earnest, fiercely loyal, and unfailingly polite to everyone she met, holding a deep affection for her patron deity, Takamikazuchi. Since they had already met and apologized to Belle's group regarding the past parade incident, this wasn't their first encounter with Tsuna. Because Belle had forgiven them, Tsuna held no grudge against the trio either. "This is my power," Tsuna muttered. It was perfectly natural to be shocked by the sight of a human whose head was literally engulfed in flames, but even Tsuna was getting tired of explaining it every single time. "A split personality," Naza murmured, observing the drastic shift in his demeanor. Since she accurately pointed out the exact thing he was self-conscious about, Tsuna denied it bluntly. "More importantly, is Lilisk really in here?" Welf asked, gripping his weapon. Hermes tracked her down. "There's no mistake," Hestia confirmed. "He really managed to find her, huh?" Tsuna muttered, genuinely impressed. Orario was the most prosperous city in the world. To track down a single person in just 3 days within such a massive labyrinthine metropolis was no small feat. The Hermes Familia excels at gathering information, Mike explained. "For them, a task like this is child's play." Hearing about the Hermes Familia's capabilities made Tsuna realize he needed to tread carefully. If they grew suspicious of him, there was a real risk they could uncover the fact that he was from another world. "Stick to the original plan and stay here on standby, just in case," Tsuna instructed. "Understood. Let's go. We need to rescue our supporter as quickly as possible." Tsuna and the rescue squad stormed into the winery where Lily was imprisoned. Just as the Hermes Familia's intelligence had suggested, the majority of the Soma Familia's members were gathered inside. "Out of the way." Welf and Uka charged the vanguard, easily sweeping aside the enemies that lunged at them. Mikoto and Tsuna took the midguard. Mikoto incapacitated her foes with the blunt edge of her katana, while Tsuna pacified his targets with minimal, precise movements. From the rear guard, Chigusa and Naza provided covering fire with their bows and crossbows, supporting the frontline fighters. Hestia stood safely behind them, carefully watching the battle unfold. "This is bad," Tsuna quickly realized. Though their side was overwhelmingly superior in skill, the sheer number of enemies wasn't dropping. If this dragged on, Welf and the others would exhaust their stamina, and the tide would inevitably turn against them. "Big guy." Just as Tsuna predicted, the sheer volume of attackers began to wear them down. Uka, overwhelmed by fatigue, left an opening and was kicked to the ground. Welf immediately kicked an enemy away to rush to Uka's side. The rest of the squad couldn't hide their exhaustion either. In the rear, Chigusa and Naza's quivers were running dangerously low, and expressions of panic began to surface on their faces. Hestia, realizing the situation was deteriorating, bit her lip in frustration. "Good grief. You guys are a real pain in the ass. To think we have to do all this just for Arde," one of the Soma members sneered. "You're the bastards who kidnapped her in the first place." Welf roared back. "Oh, you mean Arde? It's her fault we're stuck cleaning up this mess. We've got money to make, you know." "You bastard." Welf bared his teeth, furious at a man whose only concern was money, entirely disregarding Lily's well-being. "It's even worse than Hestia described," Tsuna said coldly. "Have you drowned so deep in wine that you've lost your basic human dignity? Say whatever you want. I just want my divine wine. Protecting Arde now that she's useless as a cash cow isn't even worth pocket change. Frankly, she's nothing but a nuisance. It would have been better if she had just died." Rather than showing any anger at Tsuna's words, the man's mind was entirely consumed by greed. The other Familia members seemed to share his sentiment, wearing looks of sheer annoyance. Not a single person among them raised an objection. Seeing a group of people so enslaved by their desire for divine wine filled wealth, and the others with a terrifying revulsion. But amidst the horror, Tsuna alone took a slow, deliberate step forward. "Tsunayoshi-kun!" Hestia cried out, realizing what he was about to do. But Tsuna didn't stop. He stepped in front of Welf and Uka, the flame on his forehead violently shifting into the dazzling brilliance of the sun flame. X impact. Suna slammed his right fist into the ground. A massive crater instantly opened up beneath him, accompanied by an ear-splitting roar. The resulting shockwave sent violent tremors tearing through the entire winery. What? Both friend and foe collapsed in sheer terror at the sight of the devastating crater. Welf's mind went blank, entirely unable to process the destruction before him. Suna pulled his fist out of the shattered earth and swept his gaze over the paralyzed Soma members. He had made his choice. If the alternative was letting the Soma Familia take Lily, he didn't care if his true identity was exposed. Hearing the commotion, Xanas finally emerged on the balcony. He stared down at the cratered floor, utterly gobsmacked. "You're the one who kidnapped Lily, aren't you?" Suna asked, his voice deathly quiet. Thanks to the information Hermes had provided to Hestia, Suna already knew that Xanas had been trying to get his hands on Lily, and that he was the one truly running the Soma Familia. He also recognized the man from his physical description. What are you all doing? Hurry up and get him. He's only one man. Xanas screamed at his subordinates. But no one moved. None of them could even muster a response. The overwhelming gap in power demonstrated by Suna's single strike had paralyzed them with a primal fear. That terror easily shattered the charm of the divine wine. All they felt now was regret for pushing Lily too far and drawing the wrath of an absolute monster. Release Lily. Do that, and we'll leave without doing anything else. Refuse, and I will take her back using whatever means necessary, Suna declared. Xanas squeaked, overwhelmed by the crushing pressure radiating from the boy below. Just then, the doors to the balcony opened. What is this? Lily, who was supposed to be locked in the dungeon, stepped out onto the balcony. She stared down at the ruined winery, unable to hide her shock. Don't move. Xanas shrieked. Xanas immediately darted behind Lily, grabbed her, and pressed a dagger hard against her throat. Don't you care if she dies? Losing Lily meant losing a massive business opportunity. Realizing he stood no chance against Suna in a fight, Xanas shamelessly resorted to taking a hostage. That's enough. Suna's fury reached its boiling point. A massive torrent of flames erupted from his body like a raging tempest. Are you really that desperate for money? Xanas had foolishly believed taking a hostage would give him the upper hand, but he instantly realized he had made a fatal mistake. You're the one who ignored my warning. You'd better be prepared for the consequences. Tsunayoshi-sama is. Lily watched Suna's explosive rage in stunned silence. Though she hadn't known him for long, she understood the kind of person he was. He was just as soft-hearted as Belle. He wielded terrifying power, but he was a gentle soul who never used it to look down on others or force them into submission. Conflicts between familias are strictly prohibited by the guild. If you do this, you won't get off scot-free either. Desperate to survive, Xanas hypocritically used the guild's rules to threaten Suna, entirely ignoring the fact that his familia had started the conflict. So what? I don't care as long as it means we don't lose Lily. If you're planning to make her suffer any more than you already have, I'll crush the Soma Familia to the ground. Xanas's pathetic attempt at negotiation only poured oil on the roaring fire of Tsuna's wrath. My bad. Then, how about we team up? I've got a highly profitable business proposition. We can make a fortune just by selling monsters. With Arde's power you could also. He tried to pivot to his monster smuggling business, but he never finished his sentence. Using a reverse burst of flames, Suna closed the distance in a flash and dug his fist deep into Xanas's jaw, launching the man high into the air. Suna fired his flames, rocketing upward in hot pursuit. You're going to regret hurting innocent people. Please save. Cutting off Xanas's desperate pleas, Suna positioned himself above the man and drove a devastating right straight directly into his face. Xanas plummeted from the sky like a meteor, crashing straight through the wooden balcony and smashing violently into the ground below. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 67, Chapter 67, Solution. 1540 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 67, Solution. Suna stood over Xanis, the architect of all this misery. Having taken Suna's brutal right straight and crashing from the sky, Xanis now lay sprawled out on the ground in a star shape, his face severely swollen and completely unconscious. Slowly, Suna descended from the air, landing softly beside Lily on the shattered balcony. Tsunayoshi-sama. Lily called his name hesitantly. Even though she knew he was on her side, she had never seen him so terrifyingly enraged. Sorry to keep you waiting, Suna said, his fierce expression softening into one of deep regret. He knelt beside her, his hands glowing with gentle sun flames as he carefully healed the raw wounds on her palms. You managed to get out? I heard you were locked up, Suna said softly. A man named Chandra helped me, Lily explained, her voice trembling slightly. He said he was letting me go because he hates Xanis-sama, and he handed me the key to the cell. Suna felt a small wave of relief. He had assumed the Soma Familia was entirely comprised of irredeemable scum, but it was good to know there was at least one decent person among them. More importantly, I am so sorry. Because of Lily, everyone was dragged into this mess. Hestia told me about your past, Suna interrupted gently. About how you had to steal just to scrounge up enough money to leave your familia. Stealing is a crime, yes. But you didn't do it because you wanted to. You were forced into it by your deity, your familia members, and all those malicious adventurers who took advantage of you. This isn't your fault. Tsunayoshi-sama. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. Right now, the Hestia Familia is caught up in a war game against the Apollo Familia. They're trying to win so they can take Belle. Is that true? Having been locked in a cell since her kidnapping, Lily had no idea about the massive event that currently had all of Orario buzzing. Suna's words left her completely stunned. And to win, we need your power. Please, lend us your strength. Even if Lily joins, there's no way Lily can be of any real use. That's not true. I heard it was your idea to seek refuge on the 18th floor. You saved Belle's life as well as the others. That kind of quick thinking is exactly what we need for this battle. As long as you are there, Tsunayoshi-sama, there shouldn't be any problems at all. Lily fully understood that with Tsuna's overwhelming power, they could effortlessly crush the Apollo Familia even without her. That won't work. This war game started because the Apollo Familia wants Belle. Right now, Belle is training out of his mind just to beat them. That means Belle has to be the one to win. Even if I stepped in and offered to fight in his place, I doubt he'd back down. Suna remembered Belle's desperate fight against the Minotaur. Ace could have easily stepped in to save him, but Belle had chosen to fight with his own strength to prove his worth. Besides, once this war game is over, I'm leaving Orario. Suna knew what Reborn's arrival meant. If his tutor was here, it meant they had established a way to travel between Orario and their original world. The time to say goodbye to this world was fast approaching. After I leave, you guys are going to have to face whatever battles come your way without my power. If I win this war game for you, it won't do you any good in the long run. You have to achieve this victory with your own strength. Even if Lily wants to undergo a conversion, there is no way Soma-sama will listen. Leave that to me, Hestia said, stepping onto the balcony while being carried by Naza. Hestia. Hestia-sama. As a fellow deity, Soma might actually lend me an ear, Hestia said confidently, before glaring down at Suna. You really went wild, didn't you, Tsunayoshi-kun? I never imagined you'd take it this far. I am so sorry. Hestia hopped down from Naza's arms and gave Suna a scolding look. Unable to argue with her, Suna could only offer a deeply apologetic smile. Well, whatever. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been able to save our supporter boy. I'll handle things with him from here, so you wait downstairs. Let's go, supporter boy. Hestia and Lily headed deeper into the building to confront the patron deity, Soma, while Tsuna and Naza leaped down from the balcony to the ground floor. Whoa, whoa. What the hell happened here? Chandra emerged from the underground cellar, staring in absolute horror at the devastated courtyard. Recognizing a potential threat, Tsuna immediately dropped into a combat stance. Wait, hold on. I don't want to fight. Chandra shouted, quickly throwing both hands into the air to show he had no hostile intent. I just came up to see how the fight turned out. Realizing this was the man who had helped Lily, Tsuna slowly lowered his guard. You're the one who took out Xanis? Chandra asked, eyeing the unconscious man. What if I am? I just wanted to say thanks. I always hated that bastard. So you're Chandra, the guy who let Lily out of the cell. Confirming the man's identity, Tsuna completely dropped his hostility. I joined this familia because I heard they had the best booze in the world, Chandra explained, scratching his head. But thanks to that guy treating the familia like his personal property, we couldn't even drink properly anymore. Plus, he was illegally smuggling the divine wine on the black market to line his own pockets. More than enough reason to lock him up. He won't be treating this familia like his personal piggy bank anymore. Then make sure you reform this familia so nothing like this ever happens again. I'm not going to condemn your desire for divine wine, but ruining other people's lives just to get your hands on it is completely unacceptable. Understood. In exchange, I won't report this incident to the guild. And I'll pay for the damages I caused. I'm cool with the first part, but I refuse the second. We'll fix the damages using the money Xanis hoarded illegally. Consider it part of his punishment. Are you sure? Thanks to you, we've finally snapped out of the wine's charm and gotten a real chance to change things. Let me do at least this much. Besides, it's about time I faced our patron deity properly. I have one last request. Can you keep my presence here a secret? I don't mind, but why go to such lengths? I don't want people knowing about my power. So please. All right. Though he didn't fully grasp the circumstances, Chandra agreed to Tsuna's terms. Shortly after, he rallied the remaining, shell-shocked familia members to begin cleaning up the aftermath of the conflict. Well, it's finally over, Tsuna muttered. Don't act like this is just over with. Wealth finally exploded, breaking his long silence. Why the hell did you blow a massive crater in the floor? You nearly scared the life out of us. If you're going to do something that insane, at least warn us first. Sorry. I actually held back quite a bit. Why, you're kidding, right? Hearing that the devastating attack was him holding back, Wealth and the others couldn't hide their sheer shock. The rest of the group stood frozen, jaws hanging wide open. Reborn Kun mentioned that you could obliterate the Apollo Familia all by yourself. I thought he was exaggerating. Naza murmured. To be honest, we barely did anything. Uka added. If anything, we were just dead weight. Chigusa agreed meekly. Perhaps Sawadadano could have resolved this entire situation on his own. Mikoto pondered. Given Tsuna's absurd level of strength, Naza, Uka, Chigusa, and Mikoto seriously began to wonder if their presence had been entirely unnecessary. To be honest, I really don't want my power to be known, Tsuna said quietly, his tone turning serious. If I can save someone without using it, I'd much prefer that. If I stood by and lost a precious friend right in front of me, I wouldn't be able to die in peace. That's why I decided to use it. Tsuna's words struck a deep chord within Wealth and Mikoto. In that moment, the two of them simultaneously made a silent resolution. You have my gratitude, Sawadadano, Mikoto said. Thanks, Tsuna, Wealth added with a grin. Tsuna blinked, completely lost as to why the two were suddenly thanking him. Later that day, thanks to Hestia's divine intervention and Lily's earnest plea to Soma, her departure from the Soma Familia was officially approved. Following the incident, the Soma Familia underwent a massive internal restructuring, gradually steering itself toward a much brighter future. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 68, Chapter 68, Death 1155 Words Want to read ahead. Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations Chapter 68, Death Time rewound to 3 days ago. Bel was preparing to leave the city with Reborn for his special training. Atop the summit of Babel. Now then. I wonder what kind of performance that child will show me. Freya, the goddess of beauty and head of the Freya Familia, gazed down at Rio from her luxurious residence at the top of Babel. She was thoroughly looking forward to seeing what kind of spectacular feats her beloved Bel would achieve in the upcoming war game. Freya desired Bel for herself. When she initially learned that Apollo was trying to claim the boy, her first instinct was to unleash her Familia and annihilate them. However, her desire to possess Bel was matched only by her desire to see him grow into a true hero. Believing that a victory in this war game would push him closer to that heroic ideal, she ultimately decided to spare the Apollo Familia for the time being. Depending on the rules, if Sawada Tsunayoshi participates, there is no way they will lose. And even if they do, I can simply destroy the Apollo Familia afterward. Besides, Sawada Tsunayoshi likely won't intervene. Freya had watched the battle against the Minotaur through her divine mirror. During that fight, Tsuna could easily have stepped in to assist, yet upon seeing the boy's unwavering resolve, he had held himself back. She was certain that even if Bel were forced into a one-on-one duel with the Apollo Familia's captain, Tsuna would not lift a finger to interfere. But I suppose he will be training with the Sword Princess again. If Bel intended to fight the Apollo Familia, it was obvious he needed to train before the war game began. And she was 99% sure his training partner would be Ace. The thought of Bel being trained by another woman did not sit well with Freya at all. But as long as Sawada Tsunayoshi is there, stopping it is impossible. Alan and the Gulliver brothers hadn't attacked Tsuna's group out of nowhere. It was Freya's direct order, driven by her jealousy over Bel training with Ace. Knowing full well that Tsuna had effortlessly swatted away her elite executives, Freya recognized that preventing Bel and Ace from training together was a lost cause. Speak of the devil. Peering down from her tower, Freya caught sight of Bel walking through the bustling streets below. She spent most of her days observing Bel's daily life from her high vantage point. Who is that? Walking beside Bel was a figure she didn't recognize, a baby wearing a sharp black suit and a yellow pacifier around his neck. Having watched the lower world and its countless inhabitants for hundreds of millions of years, Freya had seen almost everything. Yet, the sight of an infant casually walking on two legs like an adult was so bizarre she couldn't help but stare in sheer disbelief. I can't see the color of his soul. Freya possessed the divine ability to see the true color of a person's soul. But for some inexplicable reason, she couldn't see anything when she looked at Reborn. It was an unprecedented anomaly, and it left the goddess visibly shaken. Just then Reborn stopped walking. With clear, deliberate intent, the baby turned his head and looked directly up at her. She had never imagined anyone could notice her gaze from this distance, and instinctively stepped back in fear. He noticed me. Just what in the world is he? Having received a permit to leave the city from the guild, Bel and Reborn headed toward the main gates. Is something wrong? Bel asked, noticing Reborn's pause. I felt a gaze coming from the direction of Babel. Someone was definitely watching us, Reborn replied casually. You can tell. More or less. I didn't sense any hostility, so it's not a problem, but having an unknown entity staring at you isn't exactly a pleasant feeling. Some of the most powerful deities in Rio live up there, Bel explained, looking up at the towering structure. They were probably just observing the city. Well, it's none of my business anyway. Chatting idly, the two approached the gates leading out of Rio. They presented their permits to the guards and stepped out into the open world. Time to start your training. First, we're heading to a port town called Melon, Reborn stated. Having examined the map Naza had provided, Reborn set their first destination for Melon, a town located to the southwest of Rio. Hand over your knives. Why is that? You won't need them for the training we're about to do. They'll only get in the way. Right. Thoroughly confused, Bell unequipped the Hestia knife and Ushiwakamaru MK2 the secondary blade Welf had forged for him and handed them over to Reborn. Hestia said she'd buy us a week, but there's no guarantee her stalling tactics will work. We train under the assumption that we have far less than a week. Are you prepared? Bell answered firmly. Good response. In that case. Reborn reached inside his suit jacket and smoothly drew a green handgun. He leveled the muzzle directly at Bell's forehead. Die once and be reborn. Without a moment's hesitation, Reborn pulled the trigger, firing a bullet straight into Bell's forehead. Bell's body went limp, and he began to fall backward in slow motion. As he drifted toward the ground, the cold realization of death washed over him. I knew this training might cost me my life, but to go out this easily. If I had just fought with a dying will, I might have been able to beat the Apollo Familia. I should have trained with a dying will. As he fell into the abyss of death, a profound wave of regret consumed him. He was losing his life before the training had even begun. His back hit the dirt, and for a brief moment, Bell Crannell's life truly ended. Or so one would expect. Instead, Bell's body practically exploded, his dying will self tearing right through his own outer shell. Now clad only in his underwear, a brilliant orange sky flame ignited on his forehead. With a face contorted into a demonic scowl, the newly revived Bell roared into the sky. I will train with my dying will. Without missing a beat, Bell launched himself toward their destination, Melon, moving at a speed that defied logic. The sheer force of his sprint kicked up a massive cloud of dust, and within seconds, he vanished completely over the horizon. It's dying will time, Reborn smirked, tipping his fedora. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, Patreon.com/negative translations. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.